Do you believe, like a lot of people believe, that Stephanie White, the head coach of the Indiana Fever, doesn't like Caitlin Clark?
The game between the Phoenix Mercury and the Indiana Fever was a wake-up call, and it wasn't just a landslide. The Fever didn't simply lose without Caitlin Clark. They were totally vulnerable. On-air critics, such as Jason Whitlock and his co-hosts, accused coach Stephanie White of making some judgments based on ideological differences with Clark. We'll dissect the match, the substitutions, and the charges made on air so you can determine whether this was poor coaching or something more. Sabotage. Additionally, the bench emotions and scoreboard raise problems that go well beyond a single terrible night. Many people think that Caitlin Clark is disliked by Indiana Fever head coach Stephanie White. She was hired by DEI. She spent years working for ESPN. That's right. Correct. Additionally, I believe that Caitlin, they are sabotaging Clark from the top down. Well, because she stands for something positive. Whitlock and Frank clashed passionately and inquired out loud on the air if Stephanie White even likes Caitlin Clark. They didn't prepare for it. Frank immediately responded with a resounding nay when Whitlock simply posed the question. It's not just a dispute. She firmly asserts that she doesn't like Clark. Both stated unequivocally that this was their on-air viewpoint rather than an established fact. However, their delivery struck a deeper chord than any game highlight. As I mentioned earlier, Caitlin Clark is being singled out to such an extent that some people are arguing that she should pursue a civil action against the league. It all makes sense, too. There is a lot of proof of hatred and so-called racism that they wish to blame on Caitlin Clark, and they continued by explaining why they believe that. According to their narrative, Clark is a symbolic character in addition to being a gifted rookie. She avoids certain league-driven narratives, according to the host. They utilized this argument to suggest that she might be viewed as problematic by some in the sport. According to their view, she stands outside of what they claim to be the WNBA's favored image and messaging, which means she represents good. They read that. Furthermore, they didn't support it with quotes or papers, only their own perception of the culture. Take a listen. Their goal is to get you to play with the devil in his playground. Correct? Therefore, Caitlin Clark stands for everything they don't. And it appears to me that she won't back down from pushing any agendas or misinformation. She refuses to do it. Therefore, it doesn't align with what they advertise and what they desire. Thus, they make every effort to knock her down. Because they have been told to do so, the referees ignore it. Whitlock drew a parallel with Paige Boers. It was about what he perceives to be unfair treatment, not about numbers or ability. This was the accusation. Both are really talented and white. However, Booker, an outspoken member of the LGBTQ, since she supports what the league allegedly wants to promote, she is welcomed into the community more completely. According to them, Clark does not, and the cost of coverage and care is borne by him. Once more, that is their claim rather than independent evidence, and they offered it as commentary for the audience to consider. Take a listen. I do think that the WNBA's DEI and LGBTQIA+ component, as well as the league, want to break Caitlin Clark until they will never accept her, so break her. If they adore Paige Beckers because she is a member of the Alphabet Mafia, so it's not that she's white. The topic of discussion changed to who and why the league elevates people. Whitlock's suggestion that ideology may influence coaching decisions was followed by Jeep's vision, which stated that sitting Clark calms opponents and that Whitlock's perspective may subtly reduce her influence and exposure. Whitlock then grounded his entire argument in particular: coaching decisions, rosters, timing, and replacements. They demonstrated intent, he said. According to him, there are times when the coach might either position Clark for success or keep her out of the thick of things. And too much of the latter has been going on lately. As I mentioned before, I believe the Indiana Fever performed dreadfully from the top down. Well, Kelly Crossoff and Amber Cox have done a dreadful job putting the Stephanie White and the roster together. In the first place, I didn't even like the Stephanie White hire. Well, I didn't think she belonged to the old guard, and Stephanie White's inherent comfort level isn't compatible with Caitlin Clark's style. They claim that if you train a fighter a certain method to fight, they will continue to do so until they start getting hit in the head. Stephanie White described her injury as a blessing in disguise and was nearly joyful about it. However, the course of events changed significantly as the game started. The Indiana Fever were eventually given the "I hate white girls, I hate Caitlin Clark" speech by their opponent. "I will annihilate the Indiana Fever." The Fever defeated Phoenix 95-60 after winning 5 straight games. Their faces conveyed the tale from the bench. Empty, exhausted, and disengaged. You can't just go on from this loss. It was the sort of thing that leaves you wondering how a stable squad could fall apart so quickly. Recall that Stephanie White described Caitlin Clark's injuries as a blessing in disguise, suggesting that her absence could be beneficial. More movement of the ball means more opportunities for others. That hypothesis didn't hold up overnight. Phoenix did more than simply make holes in it. They ripped it to pieces and delivered a sobering reality check to the Fever. Yes, they performed a dreadful job. I'll just say that I believe the group was humbled last night and that they deserved to be humbled by the opening tip. There was no true competition. This was hardly a hard-fought, back-and-forth basketball match. The Mercury were confidently running their sets, taking advantage of openings and making the Fever make mistake after mistake. The deficit seemed inevitable by halftime. Each missed Indiana shot turned into a Phoenix fast break. On replay, every defensive lapse appeared exponentially worse. Some claim that the Fever have benefited from opponents treating the game like their Super Bowl and giving it their all when Clark is on the court. That intensity wanes without her. They cite previous games as evidence for their interpretation, whether it is accurate or not. Consider the Fever's most recent victory over the Chicago Sky without Clark. Numerous commentators and hosts have. This season, the Sky was disregarded. High stakes weren't exactly emphasized in the game footage either. The dream is no different. Poor crowd enthusiasm, loose defense, and inconsistent ball handling on both sides. Well, it's the Super Bowl when these teams play the Indiana Fever with Caitlin Clark. Everyone's best shot is yours. Everyone aspires to establish a reputation outside of their play. That is to say, I will establish my reputation by either elbowing her eyeball out of its socket or knocking her to the ground. When Caitlin Clark is on the team, they are willing to do anything I have to do. During her absence, I don't think these players have put up the same amount of effort. And like I mentioned in the previous episode, we have gained by playing a lot of bad teams. However, after this game, we were awful in the Los Angeles Sparks match. You ran a little late. Up until you were down 22 with 6 minutes remaining, no one played basketball. Phoenix, meanwhile, was a completely different matter. From the beginning, they played with intention. They maintained their foot on the gas until the buzzer, contested every look, and chased down every lost ball. No leniency, no coasting. They penalized every mistake because they knew Indiana was weak. The sort of work that, every night that Caitlin Clark is on the court, the Fever watch. "Oh no!" exclaim the Mercury, Alyssa Thomas, and Juana Bonner. "We will exert the same amount of work on this group as we do when Caitlin Clark is there." They became humiliated last night because they were exhausted, had a fever after a 4M road trip, and maybe felt a little too good about themselves. According to Frank, in practically every area, the Fever loses its severity without Clark. There are more missed rotations, more unintentional mistakes, and fewer major plays that change momentum. That argument was evident upon watching this game. There didn't appear to be a single star missing. The entire building appeared to be drifting, as if the team's anchor had been withdrawn. By the conclusion, it was evident that Clark had a significant impact on how teams approached the Fever and that the scoreboard was more than just a gap. Pay attention to this. Both of them were unknown to you until Caitlin Clark appeared. Caitlin Clark is the sole reason we are here. It is the sole reason we are discussing the WNBA. You won't find a WNBA game playing when you walk into a Buffalo Wild Wings or bar. You won't be able to enter the casino without a sports bar. No, it isn't. So, was this about a hot opponent and challenging matches? Or was there another event? Did decisions made by the individual making decisions from the sidelines have any bearing on the situation? The discussion then shifted to that point by the pundits. For example, who are they hanging out with around Caitlin Clark? Why don't they surround her with people like Sophie Cunningham, who appear to share her sexual orientation and admiration for Taylor Swift? There are people all around her. Bonner, Dana Bonner's performance from last night. You have to sit there and ask yourself, who would choose Caitlin Clark and Dana Bonner for the same team? Whitlock cited one particular spin as the most illustrative illustration of his points. Dana Bonner enters, Lexi Hull exits. It's a standard substitute on paper. He asserts, however, that Hull is more than just a rotation player. One of the few people in the locker room who is seen as being solidly in Clark's corner is her. He claimed that dragging her into a game where the Fever already appeared to be flat would mean taking away one of the floor's few reliable defensive anchors. Aaliyah Boston has undoubtedly suffered the most, in my opinion, as a result of her several easy baskets. However, I believe that Stephanie White's treatment of Lexi Hall is a complete travesty. Last season, Lexi Hall was one of the core 4 members that helped turn things around. Indeed, she shot horribly last night. Let's give it some serious thought, even though she has been shooting horribly for the past 5 games. With her performance from the previous season and her early season opportunities, Lexi Hall earned the right to be a member of this team's core. When Dana Bonner arrives, Lexi Hall is put on the back burner. In an attempt to provide them with the spark they required, Bonner joined the frenzy, according to the on-air conversation. Additionally, at first it appeared as though she may. But when she replaced Lexi Hall, problems started to arise. Lexi never really had another opportunity to shine after that. Dana Bonner left the Fever completely shortly after, moving to Phoenix to play with her lover. Dana Bonner leaves the team after accepting a maximum contract. Because Sophie Cunningham Whitlock also mentioned the matchups during that time, we put Lexi Hall in a state of urgency. He mentioned that Bonner was sent to Indiana to serve as Hull's mentor and, because both, in his words, are white, straight players who more closely resemble Clark. According to him, that wasn't a coincidence. Rather, it was a part of the league's underlying culture, which holds that how you're treated off the court influences how you're treated on it. If you believe Whitlock's argument, it may have been a mismatchup, a bad benching, or something more intentional. The transcript does not prove intent. It only documents what was stated. Yes, that is illogical. Unless you had a strategy of saying, hey, look, we need to convince Caitlin Clark to support the movement and the message. The LGBTQ community is being promoted on this platform. The victimization of Black women is being promoted on this platform. The purpose of this forum is to advance feminism. And judging by the way Caitlin Clark looks, who does she want to? She only wants to attend Taylor Swift performances. The outcome on the floor was obvious from a basketball perspective. Indiana's defensive communication faltered with Hull out. Phoenix scored before the Fever defense could set, had greater freedom with the ball, and had clean looks early in possessions. Because adjustments were not made fast enough, the slight change in momentum became a larger scoring run. The hosts contended that this incident revealed the Fever's communication and rotation issues. She plays really well when Clark isn't there to help stabilize the floor. Ari McDonald is signed by us. Lexi Hall is sent back to the sidelines. Lexi Hall replaces Ari McDonald in the starting lineup. She is a fantastic player. The return of Sophie Cunningham. We prioritize Sophie over Lexi Hall and start her in the starting lineup. Whitlock connected this to what he referred to as an established pattern. Rotations that have a frantically without justification. He claims that when players like Ari McDonald are brought in and out frequently without having time to establish a rhythm and have a propensity to distance themselves from Clark's closest on-court buddies, remove important defenders and reliable choices, and shuffle pieces about a lot, the entire structure begins to fall apart. According to him, it left 2 options. Either a coach intentionally working against her own star, or one making some of the worst in-game judgments in the league at the moment. If the second is accurate, Whitlock's focus shifts from a blowout to something else. Loss. It concerns a dynamic that may jeopardize the league's future. Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell requested that the locker room be protected. And what were they doing? Before the media supporters could even witness the team's gathering with the people they brought in, they went and destroyed the locker room. For Caitlin Clark, you brought in the wrong teammates. And that is all there is to it. Because people matter, you can see what kind of players and individuals are on her Iowa squad. For me, this is where it falls. There are 3 items you must take with you. First, the Fever had recently defeated Phoenix 95-60 after winning 5 in a row. 2 on-air hosts claimed that specific roster selections and coaching decisions, particularly the hold of Bonner switch, demonstrated an